while it's dead dark, which one do you think a foliar fed? Well, my foliar feed program is probably a little different than what you're thinking. Basically, all we do is when we go over the top of our soybeans the first time with Roundup, we're putting iron and manganese in there. All we're trying to do is raise our chlorophyll levels, make our plants as dark green as we possibly can, which in turn increase your photosynthesis rates, which in turn increase your leaf mass. So, and then we're following that back up at about R2 or R3 with 6 ounce headline and 3 ounces of pyrethroid and iron and manganese again, and then we're following that up about 2.5 weeks later. And what we've done is we've taken what we've learned out of our contest fields, went and applied that to all of our acres, and we're averaging over 100 bushels on all of our acres by just doing these simple little things. And we also fertilize our soybeans. We put about 3 tons of poultry manure on every acre. Poultry manure is going to test 40 to 60 pounds of NPK, and then we're also applying some ammonium sulfate to this pre-plant. The reason we're using ammonium sulfate, basically what's happened is the government shut down all of our coal-powered plants, so we're losing all of our free sulfur out of the atmosphere. So if most people took a soil test, they're probably going to be deficient in sulfur. So I'd recommend to everybody that at least there's another thing you might try is using some ammonium sulfate, or at least looking at your soil test, see if you're low on sulfur. I get a lot of controversy over this one, but that's a dime. Those soybeans average about 13% moisture. The easiest way to raise 150 bushel soybeans is to raise 100 bushel soybeans with an average seed size of 3,000 and figure out how to cut that down to 2,000, because 50 bushels falls out of the sky. Those are free bushels. The iron and manganese goes back and drives that to keep that plant alive, happy, and healthy as long as you possibly can. Another thing is I like to plant big seed. Pioneer really dropped the ball here about 3 years ago when they came up with their 2800 guarantee, which I absolutely love. The 2800 guarantee means that if your seed size is bigger than 2800, it's free. Something kind of like that. They're only going to charge you for 2800. So if you get 2200, you only got to pay for 2800. So if you go to your dealer and he's got some, say, 2200 seed count there, grab it. And he's only going to charge you for 2800. So I got a lot of hired help, and they don't mind dumping bags. Actually, we got pro boxes, but they definitely don't mind doing that. You just start the motor and conveyor augers it in there. How many people get Successful Farmer? How many people seen me on the cover here a couple of years ago? How many people read the letter to the editor? Well, for everybody that didn't read it, I'll tell you the story. Gil Gullickson, I was on the cover of Successful Farmer. And the only reason I was on the cover of Successful Farmer is because he had a picture of me with a GAD. And he was writing a story about new technology, and he called me one day and said, "Hey Kip, I got an old photo of you with the GAD hat on, and I need a cover picture about new technology. Can I use it?" I said, "Yeah, I don't care." Well, about that story come out, and about a week later, my phone rings one day, and it's Gil. And he says, "Hey, I had something kind of odd happen." He said, "We never get a letter to the editor, but we got one on you." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "What did it say?" And he said, "Well, it's kind of bashing a little bit." And I said, "Well, what's new?" And I said, "What was they complaining about?" "Well, it was about your overalls." I said, "Oh." I said, "Well, what did he say?" He said, "Well, he said, if you're going to be the poster boy for agriculture, you need to learn how to dress the part. And that farming is not a way of life, it's a business. And you need to learn how to dress right." I said, "Really?" He said, "Would you like to respond to that?" And I said, "You bet you if you'll print it." He said, "Well, that depends on what you're going to say." And I said, "Well, I'll keep it pretty mild." I said, "You just respond back. I run a multi-million-dollar operation. And I wear overalls because they're comfy." He said, "All right." So he printed my rebuttal. And about a week after that one came out, I'd go to my mailbox, and my mailbox was full of letters from every fat Iowa farmer there is. And you know why they wear overalls? Cover up their big bear bellies. That's honest God true story. That's what the letter said. So It was amazing on how much fan mail I got on them overalls, but I like wearing overalls. But this is just a shot behind our residue on the soybeans. It's literally about this thick. We do the same thing there as we do our corn. We just use some sugar and nitrogen to break that residue down too. You know, I stole this picture from Ray Rawson. I guess everybody here probably knows who that is. Anyways, and I'm as guilty as anybody. You know, I'll get started on a path and then all of a sudden I'll veer off over here and then I go over there. And, you know, basically what I'm trying to say is start down a path and build on it. Don't go trying to go through that darn stoplight. In Germany, and they probably drive on the wrong side of the road. How'd you like to pull up that stoplight? That'd be pretty rough trying to figure out which way you need to go. Well, I mean, basically that's what you're doing on a farm if you're going like this. You know, get on a path and try to stick with it. You know, a few of the things I do on my farm is we water more frequently. I've watched my neighbors in the past. You know, before they start to water their soybeans, they wait until they're ready to croak. And then, you know, heaven forbid you want to get off that program. You wait till they're ready to croak again, and then you go dump another inch on them. Well, instead of dumping that inch on them until you're stressing those plants, what I do is we'll put a third to a half an inch on and we'll apply it more frequently versus that stressing the plant. We apply a headline on every acre. I don't know if that's going to work up here in Michigan. I just know it works for me. On our soybeans, we are using 2 applications. And we took the 40 acres last year, half width, half powder program, 39 bushels. But remember, I'm in the south, disease-breeding factory, we're hot, humid, and it rains a lot. So if you let your weeds get finished fall, 10% of your yield potential went out the window, non-recoverable. Like these weeds, I don't know about you guys, but we are really, really, really getting a lot of resistant Roundup weeds. We're also now starting to get Roundup resistant Johnson grass, so kind of a bad deal. Do on-farm plant population studies. Remember how they're selecting these genetics today. This is the easiest thing everybody can do. Put your pickup apart, get out of it, walk the fields. See what's up. See if there's a problem out there, see if you can prevent the problem from getting worse. It's the worst thing is to find it when you're out there combining. I plant maximum Hercules on every acre. I also have some rootworm pressure on some of our corn on corn where we've been 6, 7, 8 years corn on corn. But for the most part, we don't have to fight a lot of rootworms. I sure don't like falling into that trap because I'm a tightwad. I don't like wasting $35 an acre buying rootworm corn when I don't need it. So don't fall for that trap that some people advertising out here that you need to plant all this rootworm corn. If you don't have rootworms, why waste 35 bucks a bag? These are just some variety selection. These are from 114, we're up to this 30T17 out of Brazil. That's a 132-day hybrid in Brazil, but in southwest Missouri, I turned it into a 150-day hybrid. This corn here is about 10 foot tall. So you can tell that stuff's pretty rank. And everybody knows I chop a lot of silage, and everybody said, why aren't you going after silage? Well, it's got a stalk about this big. And I tell people, well, another problem is they're going to have to revamp the silage choppers and put buzzsaw blades on the front of it because it's got tree bark. I don't know really how palatable that'd be. You know, I usually involve my wife in this scenario. And last week I woke up to this realization that she has got an addiction to Diet Vanilla Coke from Sonic. She has to have one of these every day, these Route 44s. And they have happy hour. You wouldn't think that Sonic would have happy hour, but they have happy hour from 2 to 4 every day. Anyways, it was cold one day and I was home and I was working on the computer and she says, hey, why don't you go to Sonic and get me a Diet Vanilla Coke? Well, it's about 5 miles north. But I was feeling pretty good. I was in a good mood, so I thought, well, I'll just go to Sonic. It'll be a lot better than that and listen to her gripe at me. So I jumped in the truck, went to Sonic, and got her Route 44. Now, you know, if I wouldn't have felt good,